crowd screamed, scattering across the square. On stage, Ibrahim Traoré froze for a split second, the microphone sparking as a bullet sliced past. Soldiers rushed forward, shields raised, but chaos had already erupted. Mothers pulled children close, men dropped to the ground. A single question thundered in every heart. Who dared aim at the president right here before thousands of witnesses? But to understand this moment, we must rewind the clock. The afternoon sun blazed over Ouagadougou. Flags rippled above the square as thousands gathered shoulder to shoulder, waiting for the president's speech. Vendors shouted at the edges, the smell of roasted peanuts and dust swirling together. Children climbed onto their father's shoulders for a better view. It looked like a festival, bright, loud, alive. Then Ibrahim Traoré stepped onto the stage. His presence calmed the noise like a wave pulling back the sea. Dressed in his military uniform, eyes steady, he raised one hand. The cheers grew louder, echoing across the square. His voice, deep and unshaken, carried over the crowd words of unity, courage, and the future of Burkina Faso. Every sentence drew applause, every pause heavy with pride. But hidden within the crowd, not everyone came to celebrate. 3 men stood near the front cameras, slung across their shoulders. To anyone else, they looked like journalists. In truth, inside one bag lay a rifle. Its barrel shortened its stock, disguised beneath layers of cloth. A 4th man, disguised as a vendor, adjusted a tiny earpiece. His whisper was almost lost in the roar of the people. Green light. Prepare. One of the false cameramen lifted his lens, but behind the glass was not film. A scope aligned. A finger tightened on the trigger. The speech continued. The people cheered, and no one knew that death was already hiding in plain sight. Before we continue with this intense story, I'd love to know, where are you watching this video from, and what time is it right now? Drop your answer in the comments. I can't wait to read them. The square pulsed with life. Drums beat, flags waved, and thousands of voices rose in unison as Ibrahim Traoré spoke of unity and freedom. His words carried across the open air, steady and strong. Yet beneath the cheers, danger was crawling closer. Among the crowd stood a man in a crisp suit, blending in with government staff. His badge glinted under the sun, the emblem forged so perfectly, it fooled even the guards at the gate. But hidden under his jacket was not paperwork or a radio. It was a silenced pistol strapped tight against his ribs. He was not there to protect. He was there to strike. A few yards away, 3 supposed journalists raised their cameras. The heavy devices looked ordinary, even professional. But inside, wires coiled around steel. One lens wasn't glass, it was a rifle scope. As the speech went on, one cameraman adjusted his position, kneeling for a better angle. Through the fake viewfinder crosshairs, lined up with the stage. The infiltrator in the suit moved closer. His hand brushed his jacket fingers, grazing the pistol grip. Each step carried him nearer to the podium, nearer to betrayal. His heart didn't pound with fear, but with a grim resolve. He had rehearsed this moment, told himself it was necessary. Yet Ibrahim had once been his commander, his brother in arms. Memories flickered and clashed with the mission echoing in his earpiece. Ready, a voice whispered through his calm. Ready, he answered softly, eyes fixed on the stage. On the podium, Ibrahim wiped sweat from his brow, the sun blazing overhead. His voice thundered, "We will never bow to those who treat Africa as a prize to steal. Our future is ours alone." The crowd roared, the square trembling under the sound. But among the noise, a faint red glimmer danced across the wooden podium. It was quick, almost invisible, a targeting laser. A boy perched on his father's shoulders spotted it. His small voice squeaked above the cheers. "Papa, look, light on the stage." The father hushed him, thinking it was nothing. But the boy's wide eyes stayed locked on the dot sliding across Ibrahim's chest. The cameraman steadied his breathing. His finger curled against the trigger hidden inside the rig. The man in the suit slipped one step closer, palm pressed to his jacket ready to draw. Above the crowd, a voice cut through the roar like a blade. "Get down." For a heartbeat, everything froze. Ibrahim's brow furrowed as his instincts sharpened. His soldiers turned sharply, searching the crowd, hands moving to their weapons. Mothers pulled children close. The assassins exchanged quick, urgent whispers in their comms. Mark 1 hissed. The air tightened. The crosshairs steadied, fingers pulled, and the world held its breath. The room erupted into motion, officers rushing to phones and radios. Ibrahim remained standing silent for a moment. Outside the window, the city lights flickered like watchful eyes. He whispered under his breath, not as a president, but as a soldier who had seen too many betrayals. They tried to silence me. Instead, they woke the fire. The shot cracked. A sharp spark exploded from the microphone fragments flying as the bullet missed Ibrahim's chest by inches. Gasps rippled like a wave through the square. The cheers turned to screams. Panic ignited. Soldiers surged forward, rifles raised, shields locking together. Mothers ducked low, clutching their children. Men dropped flat hands over their heads. Yet Ibrahim did not retreat. He crouched behind the podium, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Protect the people first," he roared. The order snapped his men into action. Instead of swarming, only the stage guards fanned outward, forming a barrier to shield civilians. Their boots pounded the ground, their eyes scanning rooftops, windows, and the restless sea of faces. Another shot rang out, this one wild, tearing into a banner overhead. Dust and cloth fluttered down. Ibrahim's instincts as a soldier kicked in. He kept low eyes sharp, searching for the glint of danger. There. A man in a press vest raised what looked like a camera too deliberately. Ibrahim's finger stabbed toward him. There. His voice was lost in the uproar, but a squad reacted, charging through the crowd. The cameraman tried to flee, but the camera slipped from his grip, smashing against the ground. Metal and wires spilled out, no lens, no film, only a hidden rifle. The square gasped. People now saw the truth. This was no lone gunman. It was an orchestrated strike. Near the barricades, another figure pushed forward, the infiltrator in the suit. His face was calm, almost too calm. Hand inside his jacket, he drew a pistol, each step carrying him closer to the stage. His eyes locked on Ibrahim. The president twisted just in time, instincts screaming. The pistol fired, the shot hissing past his ear. The crowd shrieked. A boy standing too close froze in terror. Ibrahim lunged, dragging the child to the ground, as another bullet tore into the wooden podium. Guards collided with the assassin a second later. The gun skidded across the stone, sparks flying as it struck the ground. Soldiers piled on, wrestling him into the dirt, shouts echoing as the crowd pressed back in fear. Ibrahim rose slowly, his uniform streaked with dust, his hand steady on the boy's shoulder. His voice, though hoarse, carried with command. "You see them," he shouted, pointing at the captured men. "They do not aim only at me. They aim at you, your children, your future. But they will not break us." The people hesitated, then a ripple of chants rose, louder, fiercer than before. What began as fear turned into defiance. Ibrahim's chest heaved, his eyes burning like fire. He looked at the boy still trembling beside him, then at the prisoners dragged away in chains. And he whispered to himself, almost too low for others to hear, "They tried to kill me. Instead, they gave me reason to fight harder." The city was restless that night. News spread like wildfire. The president survived an assassination. Markets buzzed with whispers. Radios crackled with half-truths. And families huddled around flickering televisions, replaying the moment bullets tore across the square. But inside the presidential compound, there was no time for rumors. There was only the hunt for truth. In a stark interrogation room, one of the captured gunmen sat chained to a chair, sweat dripping onto the concrete floor. His disguise was gone, the fake press badge tossed onto the table. Ibrahim entered his boots, striking hard against the tile. He didn't shout. His silence pressed heavier than steel. "Who sent you?" His voice was low, steady, the voice of a man used to command. The prisoner avoided his eyes, muttering, "You wouldn't understand. Make me." Ibrahim's hand slammed the table. Papers jumped, the sound slicing through the air. Guards flinched, but kept their rifles leveled. The man's lips trembled. "It's bigger than you. They want chaos. They want your people to believe you cannot keep them safe. Kill you, or make it look like you can't protect them. Either way, they win." Ibrahim leaned closer, his face a mask of fury. They fired into a crowd of thousands. At mothers, at children. That is not war. That is terror. One of his officers shoved forward a folder found on another suspect. Inside were maps of Ouagadougou, marked with escape routes, alongside coded notes scrawled in French. Ibrahim's jaw tightened. He didn't need a translator to know what this meant: foreign fingerprints on Burkina Faso soil. The prisoner's voice cracked as he whispered, "We were promised money-safe passage. They told us you were a traitor to Africa, that without you, order would return." Ibrahim's fist slammed again, harder this time. "Order by spilling blood in the streets, by aiming at my people while I speak to them." His voice rose, thunder shaking the room. "No, this is not order. This is shame." The officers glanced at one another. Some wanted to bury the scandal quietly to avoid panic, but Ibrahim stood tall, his gaze blazing. "Quiet. No," he declared. "A nation that hides its wounds dies from the infection. They tried to kill me in the open before the world. We will answer in the open." He turned sharply toward his generals. "Expose them. Every name, every account, every hand that held this knife against us. Freeze their money. Break their networks. Show the people who dares to treat our lives like pawns." The prisoner slumped, defeated, his voice barely a whisper. "You won't stop them. They are too deep." Ibrahim straightened his hand, resting on the table, as his words cut like steel. "Darkness always thinks it is endless, but it always breaks before dawn." The guards hauled the man away. The room erupted into motion phones, ringing radios, sparking orders shouted. But Ibrahim stood still, staring at the maps spread before him. His face was calm, his eyes fierce. "They aimed at me," he murmured. "Now we aim at them." The city did not sleep. Soldiers patrolled the streets. Checkpoints flared with headlights, and whispers spread through every neighborhood. But inside the palace, Ibrahim Traoré was already planning the next move. He refused to sit back and wait for another bullet. This time, he would strike first. His generals gathered in the war room, maps stretched across a wide table. Radios hummed with intercepted chatter. Each fragment of code, each half-broken signal, painted a clearer picture. The conspiracy was not over. More shooters were waiting, more chaos planned. "They believe we are on the defensive," one officer muttered. "They think we will cower, hide, cancel appearances." Ibrahim shook his head firmly. "No, fear is their weapon. If I hide, the people will lose hope. So we give them what they want," another speech. Public, announced, exposed. The room tensed. "Excellency, it's too dangerous." "Not if it's a trap," Ibrahim cut in his voice steel. "We let them think I will be vulnerable again. But this time, we are ready." The plan took shape quickly. A rally would be staged in 2 days. Word would spread fast, and so would the whispers in the enemy's ears. Ibrahim's security detail would appear thinner. Cameras would capture gaps in the barricades, deliberate openings. Behind those cracks, however, elite units would wait in the shadows, watching ready. The night before the rally, Ibrahim walked alone through the palace garden. The air was thick with the scent of earth after rain, the moon casting pale light across the stone path. His chief of intelligence approached quietly. "Are you certain, Excellency? They will come with everything this time." Ibrahim didn't hesitate. "Good. Let them. When a snake shows its head, that is when you strike." The day came. The square filled again, though the mood was heavier. People knew what had happened days earlier. Some came with fear in their eyes, others with defiance. Ibrahim stepped onto the stage, the same platform that still bore bullet holes in the wood. His voice carried once more. "They tried to silence us with gunfire, but still we stand." The crowd roared, but behind their cheers, another game was unfolding. In the press section, the same pattern emerged: strangers with heavy cameras, men who avoided eye contact. On the rooftops, shadows shifted, scopes glinted. And near the barricades, one figure in a dark coat slipped closer, hand brushing his side where a pistol hid. What they did not see were the eyes locked onto them. From alleys, rooftops, and hidden corners, Ibrahim's soldiers tracked every movement. Triggers, half-pulled radios whispering codes. Target confirmed. Second shooter, east rooftop. Wait for the signal. On stage, Ibrahim raised his hand mid-speech, as if pausing for applause. It was the cue. A thunder of boots. Soldiers surged. Shots cracked, but this time the assassins were outnumbered, overwhelmed. The man with the dark coat drew his pistol only to find himself staring down the barrels of 3 rifles. Another rooftop gunman fired once, then dropped his weapon as a sniper's shot shattered his scope. The crowd screamed at first, but confusion turned into awe as they saw the attackers drag down their weapons, stripped away. This was no random chaos. It was a net-snapping shot. Within minutes, the trap was complete. 6 men on the ground, 2 captured alive, others dead or wounded. Cameras rolled, broadcasting the failed ambush to the world. Ibrahim stood tall on the stage, his voice cutting through the smoke and fear. They came again. They thought we would cower. But look at them now, caught in their own deceit. The square erupted in chants, louder, fiercer than before. The enemy had walked willingly into the fire, and Ibrahim had turned the flames into proof. Back in the palace that night, as reports piled high, Ibrahim whispered to himself, "They wanted to break us. Instead, they revealed themselves, and now we hunt in daylight." The arrests from the failed ambush cracked the conspiracy wide open. Documents seized from the captured gunmen revealed safe houses, encrypted numbers, and one address circled in red, a warehouse on the outskirts of Ouagadougou. The intelligence chief laid the file before Ibrahim Traoré. "This is their nest. We strike now before they scatter." Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. "Then we move tonight." The convoy rolled out under cover of darkness. Trucks without headlights, soldiers with faces painted black. The night air was thick, carrying the scent of dust and gasoline. Every man in the unit knew the stakes. This wasn't just about protecting their president. It was about reclaiming their country from hidden hands. The warehouse loomed ahead, its windows faintly glowing. Shadows shifted inside. Weapons glinted under the flicker of cheap lights. As the Burkina Faso soldiers fanned out, Ibrahim whispered into the radio, his voice calm, precise. "Positions. On my mark." A long silence. Then his hand dropped. "Now." The night exploded. Flashbangs cracked light, searing through the dark. Soldiers stormed the gates, rifles barking, boots pounding. Gunfire erupted in reply, sharp, chaotic, desperate. The air filled with smoke sparks and the choking stench of burned powder. Inside, the enemy fought like cornered wolves. One fired from behind, crates, bullets ripping through the wood. Another hurled a grenade, its metallic clink rolling across the concrete floor. Down a soldier shouted, dragging his comrade clear, as the blast shook the wall's dust raining from the rafters. Ibrahim himself moved with the unit not behind. Rifle tight in his grip, he swept corners, his jaw set like stone. This was not the posture of a man hiding behind titles. This was the soldier he had always been. Near the stairwell, a young bodyguard stumbled, blood blooming on his uniform. Ibrahim dropped to his knees, pressing his hand against the wound. "Stay with me, son. Stay with me." The young man's lips trembled. "For Burkina." His eyes dimmed, head falling back. Ibrahim clenched his jaw, fury igniting in his chest. He rose, rifle snapping up each shot, deliberate, precise. One gunman fell, then another. His soldiers surged behind him, shouting, pushing forward with renewed fire. At the heart of the warehouse, the ringleader tried to flee. He carried a briefcase stuffed with documents, radio crackling with a foreign voice urging retreat. He reached the back door only to find Ibrahim blocking the path. Their eyes locked, predator and prey, hunter and betrayer. "You aimed at my people," Ibrahim growled. "You aimed at our children. For that, there is no escape." The man raised his pistol, but too slow. Ibrahim fired once. The weapon clattered to the floor. The briefcase spilled open papers, scattering like broken promises. When the gunfire finally died, silence pressed heavy on the ruins of the warehouse. Soldiers moved carefully, securing prisoners, tending to the wounded. Bodies lay still in the shadows, the air still vibrating with echoes of violence. Ibrahim stood among them, his uniform stained with blood and dust. He lifted his voice, carrying over the exhausted men around him. "Tonight, you saw the price of freedom. We lost brothers. We shed blood. But we stood. And we will keep standing until no foreign hand, no traitor's shadow dares to touch our land again." The soldiers raised their rifles in salute, their voices hoarse but fierce as they roared into the night sky. The battle was won, but the war of truth was only beginning. Dawn broke over Ouagadougou with a pale, dusty light. The city stirred to whispers of the night's battle, rumors of gunfire, of soldiers in the dark, of enemies dragged out of hiding. By mid-morning, the truth was no longer rumor. It was broadcast to every home, every street corner, every radio crackling across Burkina Faso. Inside the presidential palace, Ibrahim Traoré stood before a row of microphones. His uniform bore the stains of the night before, dust on his sleeves, a smear of blood at his collar. He refused to change. He wanted the people to see the cost, to see the truth without polish or disguise. The cameras clicked as he began. "They tried to break us," he said, voice low but steady. "They told their pawns to aim not only at me, but at you, our children, our mothers, our future." He held up a folder taken from the captured ringleader. Inside were maps, bank transfers, and coded messages. Pages fluttered in the air as he laid them out for all to see. This is proof. Proof that the hand behind these attacks was not Burkina Faso. Proof that foreign powers still believe Africa is a game board to move pieces on. Gasps rippled through the hall. Some ministers shifted uneasily, but the ordinary people watching from their homes leaned closer, fists tightening. Ibrahim's voice rose, gathering strength. "But last night we showed them something they did not expect. We showed them that the people of Burkina Faso will not kneel. We bled, but we stood, and we will keep standing until no shadow dares cross our land again." His eyes swept the cameras, burning with fire. "To those who fund assassins, who send spies, who think bullets can silence us, listen well. You will fail, because darkness cannot kill the dawn, and Burkina Faso is the dawn of Africa." For a heartbeat, the hall was silent. Then the sound of applause grew, swelling like thunder. Ministers rose, soldiers saluted, and outside the palace gates, the gathered crowd roared his name. Across the city, radios repeated his words. In homes, in markets, in dusty roadside stalls, people lifted their heads a little higher. But the speech did not end in defiance alone. Ibrahim's tone softened, his eyes lowering for a moment. "We lost brothers last night," he said, voice heavy. "Brave men who stood so that others might live. Their names will not be forgotten. Their families will not be left behind. Because in this land, no one fights alone, and no one mourns alone." He stepped back, letting the applause surge again, but his gaze stayed steady, unflinching. The truth had been dragged into the light, and with it a message written not in secrecy, but in sacrifice. Burkina Faso would not bow. The world was watching. And so was Africa. The sun dipped low, casting a warm orange glow across Ouagadougou. The square where bullets had once cracked now echoed with chants and drums. Thousands had gathered again, not in fear, but in defiance. Flags waved high, children sat on their fathers' shoulders, and women ululated, voices carrying far into the twilight. At the center stood Ibrahim Traoré. He wore no armor now, only his uniform and the weight of what had passed. The bullet holes on the podium were still visible scars left in wood as reminders of how close death had come. He placed his hand on them gently, then looked up. "This stage was meant to be my grave," he said, his voice steady, carried by the evening wind. "Instead, it became our symbol, a reminder that no matter how many bullets they fire, they cannot kill the spirit of a people united." The crowd roared, some with fists in the air, others with tears in their eyes. Ibrahim's gaze swept across them, lingering on the faces of children clutching flags too large for their hands. "They thought they could silence us," he continued. "But listen now, your voices are louder than any gunfire. Your courage is stronger than their fear. Our future is brighter than their darkness." He paused, lifting his hand toward the horizon where the sun sank, but the sky glowed brighter still. "This is our promise. Burkina Faso will not bow. Africa will not break. And no shadow will ever erase the light of our dawn." The square erupted cheers, songs, tears mingling in one unstoppable wave of defiance and pride. And then came his final words, softer but piercing, straight into the heart. "If this story moved you, comment 1. If it did not, comment 0. And do not forget subscribe, share, and let this truth spread. For stories like this are not only mine, they are ours." The crowd roared again, the chant rising like thunder. And as the sun disappeared, the square burned bright with hope, a fire no bullet could extinguish.